It takes less than a single drop of water, one splash up your nose while water skiing, and within days, your body belongs to a parasite that eats your brain from the inside out. To the outside world, the Lake of the Ozarks is a multi-billion-dollar paradise of mega resorts, luxury yachts, and endless summer parties. But beneath the glittering surface hides a dark, unfolding crisis that local officials are desperate to keep quiet. While drownings skyrocket and freak dock electrocutions pull swimmers under, a silent killer has entered the water. And the real horror isn't just a biological threat. It's the fact that federal funding was just cut, quietly dismantling the half-century-old safety program meant to protect you. Profits are booming, the crowds are growing, and the safety net is completely gone. Before you pack your bags for the ultimate Midwestern vacation, you need to see exactly what they just removed from the water. Because what we're about to uncover will make you never want to dip a toe in these waters again. If you want to help us pull back the curtain on the stories the mainstream media covers up, hit that thumbs up and subscribe button right now. Share this video with friends and family, because you absolutely won't want to miss our upcoming deep dives into America's most guarded secrets. Turn on those notifications, because we are diving straight into the dark reality of these waters. The true terror of the Lake of the Ozarks doesn't come from the massive multi-engine cigarette boats tearing through the wake, nor does it come from the chaotic, alcohol-fueled parties at the shoreline bars. It comes from something completely invisible to the naked eye, thriving in the warm, stagnant coves where families swim every single weekend. Recently, medical officials confirmed a devastating case where a swimmer contracted Naegleria fowleri, more commonly known as the brain-eating amoeba. This organism enters the body through the nasal passages, migrates up the olfactory nerve, and starts destroying the brain tissue rapidly. It has a fatality rate of over 97%. It is a swift, agonizing, and almost universally fatal infection. In any normal scenario, a public health revelation like this would trigger immediate, widespread water testing, safety warnings at every public dock, and a coordinated state response. Unfortunately, the case was the reverse here. What happened behind closed doors is nothing short of a scandal. Right as these biological threats began peaking due to rising summer temperatures and historic overcrowding, a massive blow was dealt to the region's environmental defenses. Federal funding cuts quietly decimated Missouri's water monitoring infrastructure. For half a century, a robust, dedicated safety program routinely tested the lake's bacterial levels, tracking everything from toxic agricultural runoff to dangerous pathogen spikes. Systematically, that safety net was dismantled. At this rate, one will ask, why would a state allow its most popular tourist destination to go unmonitored? The answer lies entirely in the economics of the region. The Lake of the Ozarks is no longer just a regional getaway. It is a multi-billion-dollar economic engine. Massive developments like the upcoming Oasis Lakeport Resort are pumping hundreds of millions of dollars into the local economy, bringing amusement rides, upscale hotels, and a flood of new investors. Now the thing is this. If the public realizes that the water surrounding these luxury investments is unmonitored and potentially lethal, the tourist floodgates slam shut. Property values collapse. Resort bookings vanish. Local leaders chose to protect the bottom line, leaving unsuspecting tourists to play Russian roulette with the water every time they dive in. But the danger beneath the surface isn't confined to microscopic parasites. The physical trauma occurring on top of the water has reached historic, terrifying heights. According to recent data from the Missouri State Highway Patrol, drownings and boating fatalities in the region have skyrocketed by a staggering 80%. To understand why this lake is statistically ranked as one of the most dangerous bodies of water in America, you have to understand its unique geography and lack of regulation. Unlike natural lakes, the Lake of the Ozarks is a serpentine, man-made monster with over 1,100 miles of shoreline. It has no speed limits on the main channel. Anyone with enough money can purchase a massive ocean-going cruiser, drop it into a narrow channel, and open the throttle. This lack of restriction creates a phenomenon known as the washing machine. When dozens of massive boats tear through the channel simultaneously, their wakes slam into the rugged shoreline and bounce back into the lake. The water becomes a chaotic, unpredictable grid of cross wakes. Smaller vessels are routinely capsized, and even experienced swimmers are instantly overwhelmed by the undertow created by these artificial waves. Compounding this chaos is a deeply entrenched, aggressive partying culture. Alcohol enforcement on the water is notoriously difficult. With hundreds of miles of coves and a severe shortage of water patrol officers, reckless behavior is normalized. Swimmers often underestimate how quickly fatigue sets in when fighting a crosswake under the blazing sun, especially when alcohol is involved. The 80% spike in drownings isn't a freak accident. It is the mathematical inevitability of putting more high-horsepower boats and more people into an unregulated, unpoliced environment. Even if you manage to survive the toxic pathogens in the coves and avoid the chaotic wakes of the main channel, a third, completely silent killer awaits you right at the water's edge: electric shock drowning, popularly known as ESD. Recently, the region was rocked by a horrifying incident where a swimmer had to be emergency airlifted after suffering a severe dock electrocution shock. Most people view docks as safe havens, a place to rest after a long swim. In reality, a shocking number of docks along the lake are ticking time bombs. Because the lake has been heavily developed over many decades, thousands of private residential and commercial docks are incredibly old. Over time, the electrical wiring running down to these docks to power boat lifts, lights, and sound systems degrades. Constant exposure to moisture, shifting waves, and lack of rigorous code inspections causes wires to chafe and break. When a live electrical wire touches a metal dock frame or dips directly into the water, it establishes a powerful electrical field in the surrounding swim zone. As a swimmer enters this field, the electricity passes through their body. It doesn't necessarily burn or electrocute them to death instantly. Instead, the current paralyzes their muscles. The swimmer becomes completely unable to move or shout for help. They slip beneath the surface and drown quietly, just feet away from safety. Because there are no mandatory sweeping electrical safety inspections for older docks across the entire lake system, millions of visitors have absolutely no way of knowing if the water next to a rental property or a public marina is heavily electrified until it is far too late. The overarching tragedy of the modern Ozarks is the stark polarization between corporate presentation and local reality. Mainstream travel media and corporate press releases paint a picture of an idyllic, upscale playground for the wealthy. They want you to focus entirely on the shiny new boardwalks, the multi-million-dollar amusement parks, and the luxury condominiums altering the skyline. But this corporate mirage is built entirely on top of a decaying, dangerous infrastructure. While hundreds of millions of dollars flow into private pockets for mega resorts, the public systems meant to keep everyday people safe are consistently underfunded, neglected, or outright defunded. Local communities are pushed to the brink by rising costs and gentrification, while the very environment that drew people to the region in the first place is left to rot. The message from those in power is clear: keep the party going, keep the investors happy, and whatever you do, don't look down at what is actually happening in the water. Now let's take it to another angle. What happens when the corporate savior turns out to be a financial house of cards? Mainstream media tells you these new mega resorts will revitalize the local economy, but they won't tell you that the very architects of these dreams are collapsing under the weight of massive debt and explosive litigation. Look no further than the shocking developments surrounding the $500 million oasis at Lakeport Entertainment Complex. Just as construction was ramping up, Jeff Takeover, the prominent St. Louis developer who spearheaded the entire project, abruptly filed for Chapter 11. Bankruptcy protection for his development firms. Court records revealed a staggering reality. His companies were drowning in nearly $540 million in liabilities. This financial collapse didn't happen in a vacuum. It followed a bruising legal battle where investors filed a multi-million-dollar lawsuit, accusing Takeover of misusing restricted investor funds for unrelated business and personal expenses. The fallout was immediate and chaotic. The core development team scrambled to contain the PR nightmare, completely stripping Takeover of his managerial role over the project's legal entities. And just weeks ago, a federal bankruptcy judge handed another massive blow to the developer, blocking his salary until he repaid more than $115,000 in contested funds back to his investors. While city officials and politicians rush to the cameras to reassure the public that the amusement park and luxury hotel will still open, you have to ask yourself, How stable is a paradise built on a foundation of alleged corporate fraud, commingled assets, and hundreds of millions of dollars in debt? Are we actually witnessing the dawn of a new tourism golden age? Or are we watching the slow motion collapse of a multi-million-dollar ghost town before the first roller coaster even starts running? But the corporate destruction of the modern Ozarks isn't just financial. It is deeply, permanently physical. If you drive down the main commercial corridors like Highway 242 today, you will witness a landscape being fundamentally erased. Huge excavation teams and heavy machinery are actively carving away the ancient rolling topography of the region. They are blasting through limestone and flattening the natural elevations that have defined the Ozark Mountains for thousands of years. Why are they doing this? Because corporate blueprints require flat ground. Developers care far more about maximizing square footage for concrete parking garages, retail chains, and luxury complexes than they do about preserving the irreplaceable Midwestern wilderness. The very hills and natural beauty that drew people to this region in the first place are being systematically leveled to make room for cookie-cutter commercial hubs. It is a literal physical cleansing of the environment, proving that under the rule of unchecked corporate greed, even the earth itself is treated as entirely disposable. And if you manage to look past the flattening hills and the unstable developer empires, you run right into the dark reality of how the law itself protects the money instead of the people. This brings us back to the staggering 80% spike in water fatalities and drownings occurring out on the lake. Have you ever wondered why local authorities don't step in to enforce strict speed limits or aggressive water policing on the main channel? It's not an oversight. It is a calculated economic strategy. Enforcing strict safety regulations would damage the lake's core marketing brand as a wild, unregulated, high-octane party zone. High-performance boat sales, poker runs, and luxury yacht tourism drive well over $1 billion in real estate volume and local commerce. Because of this, local business coalitions and developers actively lobby against stricter water safety enforcement. Human safety is quietly treated as a secondary metric to maintaining the unregulated freedom narrative that keeps the cash flowing. This regulatory blind spot creates a legal nightmare for everyday families. Missouri maritime law contains a shocking loophole. Boat insurance is not legally mandatory for recreational boaters. Think about that for a second. Anyone with enough money can buy a massive high-horsepower ocean cruiser, drop it into a narrow, crowded channel, and operate it at maximum throttle with absolutely zero insurance. When a horrific crash inevitably occurs on these deadliest waters, victims and their families are left completely stranded by a legal framework that shields reckless operators. To make matters worse, commercial boat rental companies protect their bottom lines using ironclad liability waivers that strip tourists of their right to sue for negligence if something goes wrong. Is a human life simply the acceptable cost of doing business in a billion-dollar party economy? The modern Ozarks has become a cautionary tale of what happens when a community surrenders its safety, its legal protection, and its natural landscape to the highest corporate bidder. From the toxic pathogens hidden in the unmonitored coves to the bankrupt developer empires flattening the historic hills. The message from those in authority is extremely clear. Keep the party going. Keep the investors happy. And whatever you do, don't look down at the cost. But now that you know the truth, the choice to look away is no longer an option. If this deep dive opened your eyes to the realities the mainstream media tries to gloss over, do not let this story stop here. Help us expose the corporate forces shaping our world by sharing this video and hitting that like button right now. It takes less than a second, but it tells the algorithm that real, unfiltered truths like this deserve to be seen. To make sure you never miss our upcoming investigations into America's most guarded secrets, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned in. We will see you in the next video.